I feel that Somerset has a huge amount to offer in terms of quality of lifestyle, and I think that this has attracted a lot of artists over recent years.
Somerset, probably associated with cider.
Apples.
The levels.
Anything else?
Cheese. Cricket.
Cider.
Size.
Simon Jutton.
Geordies or, Mancunians or Liverpudlians, they all have these stereotypes that they sort of are associated with them. And Somerset's one of those places.
As you know, there's a tendency when you think rural then to sort of think small or sort of low key or quiet in terms of what the arts can do, and I see the exact reverse of that. It's an open book. If you're willing to spend the time developing real and strong relationships with people, so you build trust over time, you can do incredible work in rural settings and very ambitious, very complex work that has long-term impact into those communities.
But I think above all, Somerset needs to invest in the infrastructure for promoting visual arts and supporting its artists. It needs studio complexes where artists can work and where they can invite people from overseas so that they can exchange ideas and work collaboratively on exciting projects.
Oh, I think that you yourselves will know who the people with energy are living in Somerset, and often it's a question of just releasing what's already there. For myself, I would look at any festivals that have survived from, and by this I'm talking about festivals as in folk festivals. I still think there's tremendous power. If something has managed to come through even from pre-Christian settings and still survive, I don't know, do you still have wassailing? And these are incredibly important indigenous festivals, and to build on them, I think that often they're treated as something sort of peripheral, but to build on them and to create events and modern rituals that grow out of things that are indigenous to that area. I would look at the natural landscape, obviously, and if there are just areas that people could move into en masse and have collective experiences, often at night or even during the day, is to franchise people and allow them to explore their own landscape and just to see what is there and to use art to uncover and see the richness of what you have in local terms and local culture.
If you can't make work, then you know that's a real problem. I think one of the things about Glasgow is that it has such a good production base in the city, that it has kind of production facilities for three-dimensional work, for lens-based work, for print work, and basically, artists can survive. They can stay here and they can come out of art school and think, there's lots of reasons why people want to live in Glasgow, make it a good place to live. But one of the reasons is that for artists, they can survive, they can show work, but they can make it here. And all the production facilities in Glasgow are really close together, so there's a really good community of artists and a good tradition of making. I think that probably runs right through Scotland, actually, in terms of production facilities and being able to make. So I think that's a really important thing. If you don't have that, then you don't have the capacity to attract artists to stay in the area. So I think that's a really good basis to start from. And then you can build on top of that. You can build exhibition spaces, you can build, you can use the local resources, and people don't have to be bound by, physical spaces. It can be using, the assets that you have in that area, which sounds like very much a kind of rural environment, and that's got huge potential to invite people. And then you could start to build on top of that, inviting, high-profile artists to aim really high, to bring artists to, impact on local artists and artists that are and create exchanges, technical exchange, skills exchange. But just one of the most important things, I think, is certainly for Tramway here, is to show work that's really cutting edge and challenging, and it makes people, it's an educational role basically. A lot of what Tramway does is showing, really leading work and working with leading artists so you can influence the next generation of artists. So all of those things really have to go together. Things have to be quite aspirational, I think, you know, and practical at the same time.
It seems to me that young artists are one of the region's most important strategic natural resources, and historically the gravity of London leaches that resource away, and it's important to develop an infrastructure that encourages young artists to stay, and that's a supportive community and ideally an economy of some kind that they find of value and are prepared to invest themselves in strategically.
So we have people, even before they've gone to art school, decided what they want to do, and then they may go off to art school, they may come back to us then trying to forge a career and survive at the same time. So we provide lots of jobs for, you know, invigilation and building and all of that professional development role that's really important in terms of organisations like this. And so people don't have to take shop jobs, but they can come and work in a professional arts organisation like this. And then eventually they may, you know, come back to show or to be working with one of the programmers. And so yeah, it's a cyclical thing, and it's about looking at lots of different levels of development, and eventually, you know, putting on work that's really you know, inspirational for young artists to see, and providing ways to exchange with international artists.
It would be great to encourage more artists, though, into the county, particularly artists from overseas on residency programmes. I think this would strengthen and stretch the horizons of both visiting artists into Somerset and those living and working in Somerset already.
And the exciting thing about working on that kind of project is that it means that you can commission artists who are not necessarily from that region or living in that region, but you bring artists into that region to respond to the brief and to work on the project and to work with experts who are at a local level in order to achieve the aims of the exhibition. And it was one of the most successful collaborations that we've been involved in recent years.
There are lots of different reasons to programme an artist, and they could be at a different stage. You know, if you think about what I like to call the local communities, international, because they are both. They are in proximity, but Glasgow has a very international and diverse community, artistic community. So it's looking at people who, Tramway, not that there's a hierarchy, but there are different organisations and we're all doing different things, and it's important we all stick within our niche. That's, you know, we are strategic about what we do, and I think for Tramway we can be very much led by the building itself because of the unique nature of the building, and artists who can really run with that and develop that and to work with that space. And I think that's one of the foremost things. And using Tramway's international platform to really either bring somebody up to, you know, using Tramway's kind of international platform to really raise their profile, and for an international artist to introduce them to the local audience, and as I was saying, you know, in an educational way, almost showing people you know, quality work that they might not be able to see elsewhere because it's not physically possible elsewhere, is a really important point of Tramway's. I think it is all educational, whatever level. I think the role of what we do is that our audience, first and foremost, are practitioners. Obviously, we want to diverge, you know, audiences and increase audiences, but first and foremost, our role in what we do is educational, in that we have to bring quality work, international work, so people who can't travel can see great work in the city, and that's really important. So education is such a broad term, and there are lots of levels, as I say, and lots of different communities that we can work with. Even the cafe, even this area here, is an audience.
Just a few thousand people came at the very beginning, and over the years, over the last 10 years, partly because the reputation and the vision of the festival has kind of interested people, so people have come from quite long distances at times, and the fact that we've got into the press, both local, regional and also national, And also because then we've been able to increase the amount of funding that we've received, and we're now Arts Council funded as well. We've been able to create an event that's grown, so there's been more events, more workshops, more things to see, and so more and more people have tended to come over the years. So gradually, over those 10 years, the visitor numbers have sort of gradually grown, and at the moment we estimate between 7,000 to 10,000 people as an average have come over the last about 4 years over the 4 days of the festival.
When we work with local people, we start off by doing an individual learning plan where we talk to them about where they are in their life, where they might want to go to, and how we can assist in helping them get there. If you're doing a one-off film, it becomes a one-off, there's no longer term tracking, you don't kind of engage in the same way. But although I see with community TV, I can see the same benefits, that we can actually begin to work with people in the long term. They will come back. It's not just a 4-week course where they learn how to do basic editing, or a 6-week course they do basic editing. They'll actually be here, and we'll be able to engage with them in the long term. And that kind of then gives us the opportunity to kind of have an impact in the community because of the content we're making, but then personally a huge impact on folks' lives. You always say those things, you say those things in your report. What's your project, what difference is your project going to make in real terms to the communities and the people? I think the only way you can honestly make that impact in the long term is if you're working with them in the long term. Okay, so the idea of Wi-Fi, or connected Middlefield as it's called at the moment, is about creating a wireless mesh network in Middlefield, which is one of our regeneration neighbourhoods, and that mesh network will provide internet and an intranet services for that community. So the idea would be that we create a whole heap of capacity, backhaul, bandwidth, whatever you want to call it, that goes into the community, and then we just share it out among the whole community. And we've got these small devices called Merakis, which are plug and play. Just stick them in your windowsill, plug them on, and they find each other. So in very simple terms, we put a whole heap of capacity into the community. We share it out. With these little Meraki devices. That's the platform, if you like, and then we look at populating that platform. We create a portal, a community portal, which is a platform for news and views and stories and message boards and ways and means to communicate, but also becomes a platform for the radio, for IPTV potentially, for directing services that other agencies can provide. Food co-ops, the credit unions, all those folk getting involved and kind of offer their services across this platform as well. It can be a way of folk networking with each other.
But it's a managed portal through which all the two-way flow goes.
In a sense, it's if you looked at it in paper based, it'd be like a magazine, and it has to be managed. Yeah, it has to be built. Yeah. But we're looking at content management systems which allows local people to contribute to that management
via the portal,
rather
than nodes. So it all goes through.
Goes through one thing. Aye. So they've, in the sense of what the Meraki does, is it connects directly to the network, but it also distributes that connection as well. So you can either connect into the back of it with an Ethernet thing, but it also creates a wireless network as well. So if you've got a wireless device, you can connect to it. And if you click to connect onto it, you get the connected Middlefield portal. So you can't go right online without going through the portal, which is quite interesting, which means everyone will go through it at some point. So you could also use it as, if the council wanted to use it to have a question of the day, in terms of consultation. Do you think we should have a new school? Yes, no. To get access to the internet could be one of those buttons. Yes, no. So we've got something like 800 users in the community. So 800 people, if they're connecting that day, would answer the question. You'd hope they would, rather than just click anything to get through. But it's interesting in terms of consultation. But obviously it's another platform, and it would certainly be a testing ground in terms of IPTV, be able to give kind of lower quality kind of examples of the productions that we've made already, and potentially also start to look at some live stuff. So in the radio studio, for instance, we could maybe, if the local council is in for the Middlefield Matters community show, then we'll film that, and potentially that can go out live on IPTV. So in Middlefield they can also get a little bit of video as well, so some live video stuff.
Well, I think the fact is that Tramway is unique because it's local authority, and we have run a challenging programme, you know, of kind of international work, and I think that is unique for us also because we are running 2 programmes at the same time, and we do these lots of other different you know, activities in terms of education or whatever. I think there can be good and bad sides to that. I think that because Tramway was not imagined, nobody in 1988 could have imagined that it would have ended up being this organisation, and that was its saving grace in a way, and it was allowed to evolve constantly. And there were certainly times where they just couldn't, the kind of perception of Tramway was more international than local. You know, that's who people were really, you know, proud of it rather than necessarily being in the city. And I think in recent years that's certainly changed, and people are trying to, you know, the city is starting to respect Tramway for what it does and see how it fits into the overall context, and that it's a real jewel in the crown for Glasgow and for Scotland actually. It's a real asset, and that they own it, that they own and manage this, and that's really unique. So I think it's being a change of perception about that. It didn't fit before, but you know, because people didn't really know what to do with it, it was left to evolve, you know, in whatever way it would. And there were certainly dark days, you know, low audiences, low participation, really a destination that you came to see something and then you left. But now, over the years, it's created a kind of ongoing life for itself, and I think if it had been an independent organisation, it wouldn't have survived because it wouldn't have been financially viable, and because it was part of the city, that really saved it in a way. So yeah, of course there are logistical things and problems with paying invoices and, you know, all the different systems that make up a huge, I mean, this is Glasgow, this is a huge city, so obviously it's part of that and part of huge systems. But I think the benefits, the fact we're still here after 20 years is in large part due to the fact that it is owned by the city and that it's a real asset for them now.